One simple thing can save your mind, and you're ignoring it. It might sound like an exaggeration, but this invisible thing that goes unnoticed every day is what truly keeps our sanity steady. No matter how much you think you're fine alone, the truth is the human brain needs something few people realize: real connection with others. Without it, the brain starts losing its way, like a boat drifting in open sea. In this video, we'll reveal this curious secret, an interesting fact science has known for a long time but most people ignore. Discover how this silent absence can trigger mysteries in the mind, mess with your emotions, and even affect your body, all without you noticing. Get ready to understand what happens when this essential element is missing and why it's more important than you think. There's one thing most people ignore, but it makes a huge difference in our lives: contact with other people. Even those who enjoy being alone still need some kind of interaction. A quick chat, a look, a gesture. When that disappears and loneliness becomes routine, the body starts reacting quietly. Little by little, the mind goes on high alert, as if it's in danger, even when nothing seems wrong. It's one of those mysteries that nobody notices at first. But inside, the stress keeps growing silently, like the body believes it's under constant threat. Think of someone who says, "I'm fine on my own." But after a while, that person starts sleeping badly, feeling anxious for no reason, losing their appetite, or feeling tired all the time. That's not random. Here's an interesting fact. Our brain needs human interaction to stay healthy. Without it, things fall out of balance. It's like trying to live with a missing puzzle piece. The signs show up slowly: confusion, bad mood, memory problems. And the curious part, the person doesn't always realize what's going on. They think it's just a phase. But really, it's the body crying out for human connection. Want a more extreme example? People in total isolation, like prisoners in solitary confinement, start hearing voices, seeing things, and even forgetting who they are. That shows us something fascinating. Even the strongest minds fall apart when they're alone for too long. And you don't need to be locked up for this to happen. Sometimes it just takes being away from friends, without any real conversation, for the brain to start missing that social mirror only another human can provide. And when that quiet foundation disappears, even stranger things start to happen. Not just in the mind, but in the whole body too. The brain is like a mirror being built over time. And do you know what it uses to adjust, organize, and even understand itself better? Other people. It's through contact with others that the mind checks if what it's thinking actually makes sense. This might sound simple, but here's an interesting fact. Without talking, sharing thoughts, or watching how others behave, we start losing our grip on what's real and what's just in our head. Slowly, the mind drifts, like an anchor being pulled up from the ocean floor and left floating. When there's no one around, the brain stops, testing itself. You know that habit of repeating negative thoughts, or creating stories in your head that feel more real each time. That's what happens when you lack human connection. And the curious thing is, those thoughts go unchecked. There's no one to challenge them, talk them down, laugh at them, or give you a different point of view. Without that exchange, strange ideas start gaining strength. Obsessions show up. Identity feels blurry. Sometimes even delusions begin. The person slowly loses touch with themselves, stuck in a loop with only their own thoughts. And it doesn't take trauma for this to happen. Just the lack of conversation is enough. A good example is scientists who've spent months isolated in polar stations. Many of them reported losing track of time, struggling to focus, and even having mild hallucinations. And these were healthy, well-trained people. This shows an interesting fact about the mind. It needs human contact just like it needs food or water. It's not weakness. It's biology. It's survival. When no one gives us feedback, a look, a yes or no, a laugh, the brain short circuits. It starts creating answers on its own that used to come from other people. And that's where the danger begins. What used to be just imagination can slowly turn into a personal version of the truth. And that's when things really start getting messy inside. The mind, once clear, becomes cloudy. And this confusion doesn't stop with thoughts. It spreads to emotions, behavior, and mood. Little by little, something even deeper begins to form. And it's no longer just mental. It becomes physical too. When we go too long without contact with other people, it's not just our mood that changes. The brain literally starts to change. Really, the part that helps us think clearly, solve problems, and make decisions begins to shrink. Meanwhile, the part responsible for fear, the one that sets off the danger alert, becomes more active. It's like the mind goes into survival mode, even when there's no real threat. And it all happens slowly, quietly, which makes it even more dangerous. It's one of those curious facts that show how isolation doesn't just hurt emotionally. It physically reshapes the brain. This imbalance between logic and emotion changes how a person sees the world. Simple things feel like threats. Normal situations start to seem confusing or scary. And the most interesting part, the person doesn't always realize they're changing. They just feel like something's off but can't explain what. They start acting on impulse, getting more irritated, more anxious, and don't know why. The mind loses control, and emotions take over. Sanity slips away little by little, like water through your fingers. And no one notices because on the outside the person still looks the same. But inside, chaos has already begun. A clear example of this is what happens to astronauts on long missions. Even with intense physical and mental training, isolation in space deeply affects their emotional balance. They report sudden crying, anxiety attacks, and trouble controlling their thoughts. This proves something important. No matter how strong or prepared someone is, without human contact, even the most stable mind loses its balance. And this doesn't just happen in space. It can happen to someone living alone, working remotely, or slowly drifting away from others without realizing it. This kind of collapse is silent but very real. And when logic starts to break down, the whole body reacts because mind and body are always connected. And what comes next, unfortunately, doesn't just affect the brain. When the mind starts falling apart, the body doesn't just sit still, feels everything. And here's the curious part. Even when the person doesn't understand why, strange things start happening. Sleep gets messy. Hunger disappears or goes into overdrive. Time feels slower, or way too fast. Digestion gets out of sync. It's like the body loses its natural rhythm. And all of this happens because one thing is missing: human connection. It might sound like an exaggeration, but it's not. The body reacts to what the mind is going through. When the brain silently calls for help, the body answers with symptoms. Some people try to make up for it. They read, exercise, eat well. And yes, that can help a little. But without that look, that chat, that touch or human presence, it's just a patch. Band-aid. It's like spraying air freshener in a moldy room. It might work for a moment, but the real problem is still there. What really keeps the body going isn't just protein and water. It's also connection. That's one of those interesting facts we tend to ignore until we start getting sick for no clear reason. Take elderly people who live alone, for example. Even if they're physically healthy, many start developing symptoms without any clear cause. Fatigue, dizziness, insomnia, random pain. But when they start spending time with others again, those symptoms often improve or even disappear. That shows something powerful. Human connection is like medicine the body understands, even without a label. It's as if the body says, "Finally, I can work properly again." And this doesn't only happen to seniors. It happens to anyone at any age. Because what starts off as something emotional slowly turns physical. And when that happens, the collapse is no longer invisible. It shows up in the mirror, on the scale, in your heartbeat. And most of all, in the way life slowly starts losing its color. And when everything feels out of place, inside and out, what comes next can hit even harder. Every day, thousands of people live in complete isolation. Sometimes by choice, other times by necessity. But the effect is the same. The brain starts to get sick. And this is no exaggeration. Without human contact, the mind slowly fades away. At first, the person feels a strange emptiness, a lack they can't quite explain. Then, they begin to forget who they are, losing their sense of identity. Thoughts get confused, emotions mixed. Over time, the person stops recognizing themselves. It's as if they are present but no longer truly alive inside. One of the most curious and cruel facts is that even strong, intelligent, and aware people fall apart when they lose this essential connection. Many believe that with willpower and discipline, you can face anything. But prolonged isolation challenges this idea. There are real cases of explorers, soldiers, scientists, even castaways, who, after long periods alone, began hearing voices, talking to objects, or developing irrational fears. The mind, searching for interaction, invents company. And this shows an interesting fact. The brain prefers to deal with an illusion rather than face complete silence. It tries to survive by any means. But this attempt comes at a high cost. Deep damage sets in, some of it permanent. This total disconnection leads to something few can imagine. A slow disintegration of sanity. The person starts living in an inner world that no one else can reach. Sometimes even they don't understand what they feel anymore. Paranoias arise, fears without logic, traumas born from emptiness. And the more time passes, the harder it becomes to come back. The mind, without anyone to reflect on, loses its boundaries. And it's no use saying, just distract yourself, or it will pass. It won't. Because what's missing isn't distraction, it's connection. It's people. And this absence slowly eats away at what keeps us human. And when this happens, it's no longer just a mental health issue. It's a fight to hold on to your own sense of reality. And after that, what's left? Have you ever stopped to think how something so simple could be holding your sanity? And you never noticed? Curious, isn't it? After all, how many times do we ignore the signals our body and mind send, thinking we can handle everything alone? Now that you know this interesting fact, here's the question. Are you truly taking care of your connections? Or are you letting this silent mystery slowly eat away at your balance? Tell me in the comments. What was the most surprising thing you learned in this video? Have you ever felt any of these effects in your own life? I want to know. And if you liked it, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any videos about curiosities that will change the way you think. Because here we learn and grow together, and your mind deserves that care.